Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session on IPM Diaries for the month of June. Today, we are covering a very interesting topic. Just a minute. Today, we are covering a very interesting topic in which we will be looking at the role of multinationals in driving the growth of the Indian pharma market. Why we chose this topic is today, though the contribution of multinationals may be very small in terms of absolute value, but then a lot of innovation has been brought by multinationals in the country today. So we thought about doing some analysis in this area. To set the context, just a minute. Yeah. So as India moves on a trajectory to become a developed nation, the healthcare concerns also shift towards those faced by the developed nations. Multinational pharma companies have played a crucial role in introducing Indian pharma market to various innovative therapies that focus on effective disease management, improvement in the quality of life, and best practices in disease management. In this episode of IPM Diaries, we focus on the role played by the multinational pharma companies, in driving the growth of the Indian pharma market. So what we have done is we have divided the entire session into three core sections. In section 1, we will be looking at the multinational pharma companies operating in India. Why do they feel the need to be present in India with innovative molecules despite the challenges, and strategic approach of the MNCs for brand launches? Next section, we look at contribution of the MNCs to the acute and chronic segment, the impact on disease burden and quality of life. And the last section, we will be looking at the challenges faced by multinationals in India, the successful partnerships and reach models used by the multinationals. So let us go to the first section. In the first section, first we will look at which are the type of MNCs which operate in India. I may not have been able to enlist all of them, but then as per my understanding, there are over 30 multinationals which operate in India. A significant chunk of them comes from America, the American companies, the European companies, and a few Japanese companies. So while this chart may show you more than 30 companies, it is possible there are some more players which operate in India, probably in niche therapy segments, in niche disease areas, which may not be easily captured by us. So there may be many more companies, but at least there are 30 multinationals which are operating in a big way in India today. Now, why do multinationals feel like coming to India? For that, we need to understand the population pyramids of the developed nations. If you look at typically the population pyramids of USA, Europe, and Japan, it's the urn-shaped population pyramid in which a significant chunk of the population lies in the age group of 40 and above. Low birth rate and low death rate are the key characteristics of this type of population pyramid. Now, if we move to the population pyramid of India, we see that India's population pyramid is pear-shaped. Significant chunk of the population lies below the age group of 40, and the birth rates are also higher as compared to those of the developed nation. Also, let us look at the population progression that India is seeing versus the other countries. While India stays to be the most populated nation today, if you see, India's population would continue to peak well beyond 2050 and would be the last one to decline or stabilize. Now, as far as the absolute number of people or population that is there in India and China today, in terms of absolute numbers, we may be at par, slightly more than China. But India still stays to be a relatively attractive nation for the developed nations. Now, let us look at the demographic advantage that India has over China. Now, population base of India and China is almost at par today. However, if I were to look at the demographic age, China's population pyramid is almost similar to that of the developed nation, where a significant chunk of the population lies in the age group of 40 and above. So this is an advantage which definitely India scores over China. Though India has 650 million people in the working age group of 25 to 65, while China has close to 830 million today. But by 2040, India will have 170 million more working age people than China. So futuristically also, India is a more attractive market in terms of absolute number of people available for different therapy areas. Now let us look at the distinct advantage or the distinct reason why India also becomes attractive beyond the population dynamics. Now for this, what I try to do is I try to look at the population of India versus the developed nations. So while this is how India's population looks in terms of absolute numbers, the collective population of USA, Europe and Japan, they actually, it is very small. Again, it is not, the size comparison is actually not to scale. But then if I were to just look at it, the number of people available for consuming different therapeutic molecules is relatively lesser. Also, our population is expected to reach close to 1.7 billion before stabilizing. So it's, and if you see, we have a relatively better birth rate, whereas in USA, Europe and Japan, the birth rates are also declining. So the population that is going to be available in future also would be relatively lesser. This, when I map it with the India's per capita income, today, in terms of absolute numbers, our per capita income may be lesser as compared to developed nation, but it is definitely increasing over a period of time. Also, if you look at our literacy rates, we are expected to reach close to 100% literacy by 2032. We are in 2025 now. So it's just 7 years down the line. And if I look at my literacy rate today, it's around 81%. Now, all the above combined with lifestyle diseases catching up at a younger age means the need and desire to access quality treatment for longer lifespan to ensure better quality of life. Now, let us look at the changing epidemiological pattern in India. So, initially in the earlier years, it was mostly the communicable diseases or the acute therapy which dominated the disease segment of India. 25 years down the line, the non-communicable diseases or chronic therapy diseases were the ones which were dominating, and this number or this graph is again restricted to by number availability till 2016. Had I had probably the numbers till 2025, the 62% would have reached 70%. And also in this 62%, if I look at the breakup, it is majorly the cardio, diabeto and obesity conditions which dominate. And that is the reason why there is so much noise level around the cardio, diabeto conditions, the onco conditions, and lot of new molecules, new therapies that are coming in the market today. Now, entry of multinationals within the country have actually helped Indian pharma market in a very different ways, several ways. If you look in terms of R&D investments, there is a lot of focus on diseases of developed nations or developing nations aspiring to fast become developed nations. Drug specifics to unmet needs. So therapies that focus on treating the advancement of disease conditions or improvement in the quality of life. Improvement in the quality of life. Innovations for patient compliance, patient support programs, public-private partnerships, and many more global models for patient care. Aspirational benchmark to meet global standards. So, as foreign companies or multinationals enter India, their products probably, the perception is it's perception, and they are also quality products. They also provide a benchmark for Indian companies to take their standards to that quality, and that's the reason why we see so many USA FDA plants, approved plants today, not just because we want to enter the generic business, but also the quality aspiration of Indian companies has also improved. And if you are supposed to do a lot of R&D within the country to meet the developed nations disease profile, then we really need to create that talent pool for innovation as well as R&D. Now, when we talk about R&D and investments in R&D, this is the global scenario. This is the revenue of the different companies in India, globally. And this is the amount that is spent by these companies in R&D. Now, we may not go to the absolute numbers, but then we need to look at the percentage. How much percent of their total revenue or their total global revenue gets spent on R&D? So multinationals spend a significant chunk, almost ranging between 15% to 30% on R&D. The average time taken for new drugs to successfully be launched in the market is around 10 to 15 years. Also, the success rate is not very high, it's around 10 to 15%. So, if I were to finally arrive at one successful molecule to treat a disease condition, I would have to try at least 10 to 15 molecules. Then, if I were to look at the changing disease patterns, so for launch of a molecule X today, I need to start work 15 years back. The disease pattern also evolves. So one needs to really understand how the disease is going to evolve over a period of time to finally also to finally decide which is the molecule on which we need to work. Also, once the molecule is ready, approval for launches along with the statutory requirements and legal challenges of different countries needs to be considered. Now, all of this collectively is the reason why innovator drugs are premium priced during patent periods. It is not just to make profits immediately, but then there is a lot of effort that has gone in to arrive at a molecule. Now, this is a very important slide in which we look at the strategic approach by MNCs for launch of innovations. Many a times we end up feeling that MNCs actually develop good products and the products become super hit in the Indian market. That is not the case. MNCs focus on brand building and not brand selling. And this section, this blue patch that I will be discussing, is the most important aspect of MNC strategy of launch in the country. That is the pre-launch phase, that is the concept building phase. Market priming to make the market ready for acceptance of innovation. I cannot just come one fine day and say that now we have got obesity drugs, anti-obesity drugs, and now let everybody start consuming it. It doesn't happen that way. Education on awareness of disease, gap in the current treatments, and what options will help. Competitive benchmarking of current therapy areas and the current therapy options available. Understanding the patient journey and enabling the doctor to profile the right patients for the new launch. Focus is completely on the disease awareness and concept building rather than return on investment in this pre-launch phase. So it is not the companies actually talk about the disease area, the quality of life, the gap in treatment, and what type of medicines should be available to make the product to make the disease more um, easy to be treated. MNCs work towards offering effective solutions for a disease condition based on a patient journey. So the MNCs do not say that this particular drug is an oral anti-diabetic should replace the current treatment, but they say that this is a oral anti-diabetic meant for this class of patients, not everyone. More than 1 to 2 years are spent by MNCs on this pre-launch groundwork. And then who else but qualified doctors would be the best people who can take this effort in the pre-launch phase. Medical liaison officers, who are mostly the MBBS doctors, they play a very important role in this effort. And this concept building phase actually helps. Effective knowledge sharing and education gives confidence to the doctors to prescribe the brands for eligible patients once the brand is launched. Now, these are innovative molecules. They work on different physiological functions of the body. They are mostly prescribed by super specialists, and you really need to convince them that this is the drug for this particular disease condition. And if the super specialist is convinced, only then the patient is put on these drugs. So it is not that the drug becomes or the molecule or the brand becomes super hit instantly in the month of launch. The work has already started 2 to 3 years back. Of course, there are so many market research that also happen. The patient, understanding the patient journey, understanding the referral pathways, pricing elasticity to arrive at the right price points, usage and attitude studies of the patients, of the doctors pre and post launch, and a lot of segmentation and profiling of consumers, that is the doctors, and customers, that is the doctors, and consumers, that is the patient, also happens. Post launch, there are a lot of programs that the MNCs do for patients and doctors within regulatory guidelines. Of course, now good amount of these programs are adopted by Indian companies as well. But then there are a lot of patient support programs wherein there are counselors who handholds the patient during the treatment regime, paramedic support and assistant, sampling, dietary support, insurance support wherever is needed, And for the doctors, there is an education program for upgrading skills, support through latest scientific knowledge and interactions. The most famous, the three A's of the MNCs for allowing for expanding the reach to patients. These are very commonly used by majority of the MNCs when they launch their innovative products in the market. First is the affordability, which is through private insurance, microfinancing, or crowdfunding. Usually, the MNCs say that if the drug doesn't work or if there are some unseen effects, then there is an insurance which is guaranteed. 99% of the time, this does not need to be used because the drug definitely works. So much of work has gone and 15 years of research. Also, wherever the drug is expensive, there is microfinancing or crowdfunding where a part of the medication is paid by the patient, balance is paid by corporates, NGOs, or some other sectors. Accessibility, having tertiary diagnostic centers, ambulance services, teleconsultations, where the patient may be bedridden or difficult to go for the regular tests that are needed. So the lab is brought or the services of the lab are brought to the patient. Advocacy. Now, this is a very important part because in India, the disease profile is now changing from acute to chronic. So, in the government formularies, most of the diseases which fall in the chronic segment may not be there. Getting those diseases in the government policies and formularies is one strong effort that many MNCs take. Also, patient advocacy groups to develop a forum of patients and caregivers for awareness and reach of treatment. So this helps to ensure that the patient gets the medication in some way or the other to ensure that the disease is taken care of and the quality of the life improves. Now, this is precisely the reason why MNC brands still stay valuable to the market even post patent expiry. The tangible value of the brand may come down in terms of commercials. However, the intangible value of loyalty and faith continues for decades. Loss of exclusivity does not wipe out the brand built in a scientific way. That's the reason why you will still see some of the doctors, some of the patients, they still stay loyal to the slightly more premium innovative brands, even though branded generics have entered the market today. To summarize, key features attracting MNCs to India are the demographics with younger population and higher birth rates as compared to the developing nation, positive trends in literacy rates and per capita income, and changing disease patterns. Okay, one point I missed saying over here is when I talk about younger population below the age group of 40, and that population getting exposed to cardiovascular diseases, I have got a longer lifespan, probably 40 more years, wherein I have 20 more years to retire. I have younger children, older parents to be taken care of, and there are some of my dreams and aspirations which I still wish to fulfill. So, for that, if there is a slightly premium innovative drug available for treating my condition, why not? Also, I am still earning, so I can really afford a premium medication if it improves the quality of my life. MNCs focus a lot on brand building with extensive efforts put in pre-launch phase, shaping the therapy and focus on patient journey for the right fit of therapy protocols. Now we go to the next section which we look at the contribution of MNCs to the acute and chronic segment and impact on disease burden and quality of life. Uh, to start with, we look at the contribution to the Indian pharma market in terms of value. It has gradually moved from 22% to 15% today. It is mainly due to the strategic decisions of marketing partnerships, divestments, and exits, which are made by MNCs in India today. Though overall contribution is 15%, in the chronic segment, it stays to be on a relatively higher side, especially the super specialty business or places where still there is a significant amount of patent protection. Now, multinationals have contributed to IPM through innovations in both the acute as well as the chronic segment, though currently there is more focus on the chronic segment, but in this session, we have focused on both acute as well as the chronic segment. We have selected a few therapies where MNCs have contributed significantly in the form of drugs that meet the unmet needs in a disease condition or improve the quality of life. We have analyzed five segments or five therapies in the acute segment and five therapies in the chronic segment. There will be brands that have been legacy brands and have been existing in the country for a very long time, or brands that have been launched at around the same time of global launches and have been successful. So we start with the pain and analgesic segment. The segment today is valued at around 15,000 crores and MNCs contribute to almost 14%. There are several prominent brands from MNCs that have enhanced pain management and care. So among the top MNCs in the pain segment, we have GSK, Janssen, Abbott, Bayer, Sanofi, Pfizer and Fresenius. So if I were to talk about some of the prominent brands that we recall or have been hearing from GSK, Janssen, Novartis, MSD, we have Calpol, Crocin, Ultracet, Remicade, Voveran, Zometa, Sidalud, Esmeron. So these are the brands which we have heard. In fact, they are so big that we connect with the brand more than we connect with the company. Now, in fact, was one more brand from Janssen, Duragesic, which was a fentanyl patch for pain management in severe pain cases, especially for onco patients. But then fentanyl is supposedly banned in US, so that's the reason why I have not taken it over here. But if you look at all these brands, and I will not take you through all the key features, but what I have underlined is why these brands made a difference to the patients. It was more on the management of side effects, lesser side effects, or they were used in they could be used in both acute as well as severe pain. Sometimes it was the dosage which was convenient, once a year dosage, and which helped in ensuring adherence, and also there was proven reduction in fractures. Also, there were certain medications which filled the gap in the central muscle relaxation and is often preferred for patients who need effective relief without heavy sedation. Heavy sedation, especially if you are driving or there are certain or the patient is a factory worker, then sedation is something which cannot be acceptable. Also, many places it is rapid onset of action which is needed. So these are the key features which probably the current therapies were not able to fulfill, and these newer molecules have been able to fulfill. Also, I am just putting in a list of few more brands. I will not talk into too much details about their mode of action. But then, as I said earlier, Saridon, Combiflam, these are the brands which are known as a brand. Probably many people do not even connect, or probably if you're from the pharma field, you may connect. But a layman really does not connect Saridon to Bayer or Combiflam to Sanofi. But yes, these are the strong brands that have been brought by the MNCs to India. Next, we go to the diabetes segment. In the anti-diabetes, MNCs contribute to almost 29 to 30%. The contribution stays higher because there is still a lot of innovation that is happening in this segment. Still, a significant number of molecules are under patent protection. Abbott and Novo Nordisk within Abbott, Sanofi, Boehringer, MSD, Lilly, Cerdia, Bayer, Astra. These are some of the top companies which operate in the anti-diabetes segment today. Now, I just have not taken too much on combinations. I have just focused here on the core molecules. So, vildagliptin, sitagliptin, teneligliptin, linagliptin, saxagliptin, gemagliptin. These are the DPP-4 inhibitors. Dapagliflozin, empagliflozin, canagliflozin. These are the SGLT2s which have been launched in India. I will come to the mode of action later on, but let us focus what is the disease burden that is addressed. So if I look at the type 2 diabetes, almost 10%. Earlier the percentage was 6 to 8. Now it is 10% and more. Almost 10% of the Indian population is diabetic and almost 50% of the cases are undiagnosed. Sulfonylureas, they help by stimulating the pancreas to release more insulin. However, in a few cases, sulfonylureas may not work. Then the patient has to switch to insulin. Due to cost factor and fear of prick, many patients do not switch, leading to compromise on the quality of life. It is in these cases where DPP-4 inhibitors and SGLT2 come in they become more relevant. where this action it is not sufficing. Here they act on the enzyme which destroys incretins, and the incretins are the hormones produced by the stomach after eating that help the body to produce insulin. Or in case of SGLT2s, they reduce the blood sugar levels by preventing the kidneys from reabsorbing excess glucose. So this is how these two molecules or these class of drugs help when usage of sulfonylureas does not help. Now, if you look at in terms of absolute burden of the disease, this is what we capture in our pharma track data, the total strips of OADs sold versus, and in this total strips, these are the total strips sold for the DPP4 and SGLT2 planes and combinations. This comes to around 34%. It means that almost 30% of the type 2 diabetes patients, the diagnosed ones, have already reached the advanced stage and are eligible patients for this type of therapy. Next, we go to obesity segment. This is something which we had discussed earlier as well. But then look at the number of obese patients, whether it is generalized obesity or abdominal obesity that exist in the country today. Cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, obesity, everything is interconnected. These are the few molecules that have been launched in the country for obesity treatment. They mimic action of certain hormones, hormone GLP-1, increase insulin production which helps in lowering the blood sugar level, delay gastric emptying, and also suppresses the desire to eat in the brain. So if you see, they act in three areas. They act where the pancreas action is needed, they act where the GI system is needed, they also act on our CNS system. Now, who else but a super specialist would be the one who would prescribe this type of product? Also, in our earlier days, we never talked about people as obese. We just ended up saying if a person is healthy, little fat, he was a healthy person, and if a person is very fat, he is a very fat person. But obesity as a scientific word, it had never come. Many a times, everybody accepted obesity as a part of life because nobody termed it as a disease. It is the MNCs who played an important role in shaking this belief and putting efforts in creating this exercise. They have actually done this obesity therapy shaping exercise, and which today is benefiting many. While lifestyle modification, dietary, and exercise discipline are indispensable aspects in obesity treatment, but at least these drugs, they help the patients to set the momentum. These drugs may actually bring down the weight by 20%, 30% as they claim, but that also gives a sort of motivation for the obese person to start focusing on these aspects. These drugs are not a solution to take care of my obesity, but then they channelize my efforts in obesity treatment. Besides this, there are many traditional molecules which have been there, the oral antidiabetic molecules, which have been there in the country and they have really done well in the market and have good acceptance. Besides the oral antidiabetics, we have insulins, Novo Nordisk, Lilly, and Sanofi, key players in the incidence market. Type 1 diabetes, the incidence is relatively lesser. But then, yes, these have been the top companies, and these are the significant brands that these companies have introduced in the market today. Coming to devices, if you see, many of the MNCs have got their glucometers. And if you see all the glucometers, it's not just a prick and you get to understand what is your glucose level. They are integrated with pumps and pens. Then they are also smartwatch compatible. There is a predictive analytics. They can predict the highs and lows 10 to 60 minutes ahead. Also, they are AI enabled, real time and trend prediction. And there are simple audio and visual cues which can help you. So basically, if you see now, the glucometers that are available are not the simple glucometers, but then predictive analytics, artificial intelligence comes into pictures where which because of this it really helps the patient to take care of themselves in a proactive way. Coming to the next segment, we come to the anti-infective segment, which is a big segment, and multinationals they contribute to around 11% of this anti-infective segment. I'm very sorry, I made a mistake over here. Yeah. Anti-infective segment. Now, this segment typically it is a cluttered segment, and there are a lot of branded generic and generic generics which have cluttered the presence in this segment. However, GSK, Abbott, Pfizer, these are the core players. And GSK, every time in our webinar, we hear Augmentin as a brand which is at a leadership position. So this is a brand which has been launched or brought in the country by GSK. Initially, it was a Smithline Beecham brand. After Smithline merged with Glaxo, it is a GSK brand. But then if you see the many of the brands which are there, they are actually the brands which are there in the country for a very long time, and they have really made a lot of difference to the anti-infective treatment, whether the normal anti-infectives or hospital anti-infectives. But then yes, they are strong brands. Now we may actually know many names which are bigger in terms of value, which may be a lot of branded generics, but yes, these are the ones who are the innovators who have brought this therapy in the country. Besides the anti-infectives, there are a lot of antifungal and antiviral brands. Now, these two segments are relatively smaller segments in the anti-infective, but it was during the COVID times that the importance of even these molecules became more evident. Next is the blood related segment. Now, this blood related segment actually it may seem to be a very small segment, but then the disease burden is also something which one needs to look at. Aplastic anemia, which is more of a genetic condition, though the if you look at the prevalence, it is 4 to 7.5 cases per million patients, which in terms of absolute numbers on a 1.46 billion population comes to around 6,000 to 11,000 patients. So it is a rare disease, and having drugs for these rare disease also is a phenomenal thing, because a lot of effort goes in to create a drug for limited number of patients, especially for the commercially it is very difficult to be a viable proposition, but then yes, for the patients and the caregivers it is a lifeline. And this type of anemia is these are the cases where you really cannot give hematinics or other anemic preparations. It is this thrombopoietin agonist or erythropoietin products. These are the ones which are a quick and easy solution for the patients. Coming to the gastro segment, again, a acute segment, a cluttered segment, but Abbott, Pfizer, Sanofi, these are the strong players in the segment today. The molecules that I have taken or the brands that I have taken in the gastro segment are actually big brands which have moved to a OTX to a great extent. And these are the brands, if you look, Dufalec, Crimafen, Digene, Stemetil, these are the brands which we have been hearing of or have been consuming right from our childhood days. Udiliv also a very strong and important brand. If you see in all the cases, it is mostly the safety, the rapid relief, the ease of convenience, effective against a wide range of anaerobic bacteria. That is something which is more pronounced and which is what makes the brand sell. And today, many again, as I said, talked about the earlier things, Dufalac, Crimafene, Digene, people may not remember the company, but then people remember the brand. This is the brand that they have built, and now they have taken it in a strong way in the OTX way. In fact, there are many brands in this list which were not original brands. They were actually brands which were from Solvay, Piramel, Nicholas, and Abbott has acquired these companies, and hence the brands have gone to their kitty and they have made it stronger further. Also, certain brands, Gelusil MPS, again a OTX brand, sort of OTX brand from Pfizer. Enterogermina, again this is a place where we call as a therapy shaping exercise. So if we talk about probiotics, in Indian context where the normal curds is the strongest probiotic, creating a market which is a sort of replacement or an enhancer of this natural probiotic is something phenomenal, and it definitely has got a stronger market today. Of course, there are a lot of branded generics which have entered this segment, but yes, creating that concept, selling that concept, generating a patient profile that for that some concept is something which Sanofi has really done well. Coming to the cardiac segment, again, this is a high growth segment, what we discussed earlier, the segment which is becoming prominent because of our lifestyle diseases. Now over here we have strong players Abbott, Astra, Merck, Pfizer, Bayer, Cerdia, Novartis. These are a few common players. Now in this, I have not taken too many examples of our antihypertensives, but we have focused more on the innovative brands. Before going and looking at the brands, let us look at the disease burden in the cardiac segment. In fact, cardiovascular diseases are actually the leading cause of death in India today. If you look at the death rate in India is 272 per 1 lakh population, and it is higher than the global average of 235 per 1 lakh population. CVDs account for nearly one third of all deaths in India. Premature mortality, measured in terms of years of life lost due to CVD, has increased significantly in India. One is people dying at a younger age because of CVD, or people who may be alive but then their efforts that they can take in life actually get compromised because of cardiovascular disease. So overall, it's a loss for the economy because we lose a good amount of working population, and also the working population which is impacted may not be able to perform to the same extent as they would have had they been on a healthier side. Also, a large percentage of Indian population has abnormalities in lipid profiles with high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, and high LDL cholesterol levels. CVDs in India tend to occur at a younger age compared to the Western population, and the case fatality rate for CVDs in India is also a cause of high concern today. Now, what do these innovative molecules help, or how do these innovative therapies help? They have faster and targeted action. They reduce the rate of hospitalization and reduce the cost burden. And also, there is a lot of focus on the quality of life and duration of treatment. Because what happens is, in many a times when a cardiac patient has to be hospitalized, he actually lands in a ICU. He doesn't go to a general ward. And this itself is a lot of cost burden to the patient's family, and also a lot of stress to the caregivers besides the patients. Now, over here, I will not take much, I will not discuss much on the mode of action, but then we just focus on the important brands and the molecules. Some are the molecules, many of them are, new launches like Brilinta, Xarelto, Kerendia, Verquo, Pradaxa. These are relatively new molecules which have been launched in the market, and they have been a super hit. Not because all of a sudden the doctors have got solution to a problem, but then these companies have done a lot of market priming exercise to ensure that the right patient profile is put on these drugs. Vimada, Cyberva, the latest launch from Novartis, Eliquis, a new launch. These are very important brands which have made a lot of difference by addressing the healthcare concern. If you see, majority of them are, in heart failure therapies. Heart failure therapies, lipid lowering drugs, everything again is connected. Coming to the biologic segment, now in biologics, I have just put a disease burden of cancer. Though, these drugs can be used in many therapies beyond cancer. But if I look at the disease burden of cancer as such, in India, close to 15 lakh new cancer cases were detected in 2023. And several factors are contributing to this increase, including a growing and aging population, increased awareness leading to more diagnosis, and lifestyle diseases. In fact, cancer kills about 2,000 people per day in India. Now, there are many different, products or the molecular sections which come in the biologic segment. It is the monoclonal antibodies, which are lab-created proteins which act like human antibodies to treat various diseases. They are target specific, and they can be used for cancer treatment, infectious disease treatment, autoimmune diseases, and other diseases like multiple sclerosis and psoriasis. We also have psychostatic human antagonist, wherein they mimic the action of natural hormones in the body, but instead of promoting cell growth, they inhibit it, and they slow or stop the growth of cancer cells. Again, they are used for treatment of certain breast cancers, prostate cancers, ovarian cancers, uterine cancers, and also in treatment of endometriosis. I may not go through all the brand names, but then of late we talk about MABs and TNFs. So these are the MABs that have been launched. Now, cancer again is a very difficult disease. Just imagine, I see on this slide, I see two brands from AstraZeneca, in this segment and 3 brands from AstraZeneca in this segment. So there are total, if I talk about 5 brands of AstraZeneca, the work on it has started 15 years back. And then with a success rate of 10%, imagine the number of entities they had to start with 15 years back to finally arrive at these molecules. Also, the TNIPs that we talk about, a lot of TNIPs introduced in the market today, used in specific cancer treatments in leukemia, lung cancer, melanoma, and some other inflammatory conditions as well. Now, all of these molecules, again, talking to a limited, if you see the oncologist population of India is also limited, and also getting exposure to the patient profiling, understanding the different patient profiles, how it needs to be treated. Again, cancer drugs are expensive. How do we go ahead getting the drugs available in an affordable form to the patient? A huge task and a very, and I would say excellent exercise conducted by majority of the MNCs in making this happen. Coming to the ophthal segment, again in this segment, MNCs contribute to close to 26% of this market, though the market may be a relatively small market, but MNCs are still stronger because many molecules are specialty driven, especially conditions like glaucoma. Um, Allergan, Novartis, and Bayer are the top players in this segment. If you see, majority of the molecules which are there are anti-glaucoma preparations. Now, what makes them different from other molecules is first is well tolerated, pH stabilized, hence it reduces irritation and hence aids compliance, superior penetration, once daily dosing, which ensures that greater than 30% of reduction in the intraocular pressure. Okay, so this essentially means I will not go through all the brands and all the molecules, but it so happens that it is the dosage and convenience and penetration. These are the factors which become very important in ophthalmology as a segment. Also, next we go to the respiratory segment. In the respiratory segment, I have not taken the asthma segment. I have taken the cough and cold segment, and here we will focus more on how they have made brands, big brands. As we have seen earlier, it's not Tosec, Benadryl, Corex, Allegra. People connect these brands less with the company. They connect more with the indication. You know, if it is cough and cold, let me have Benadryl cough, let me have Corex. So it is more connection of the brand with the therapy rather than brand with the company. And this is called, having association with the disease is something which successfully this has been done by many of these companies. Also, as these brands become go OTX, the USPs of the brands also become easy availability, fast acting, faster relief, soothing, non-sedating, which is something which is more connected to a brand of OTX nature. And the last segment for the day that we take is the vaccine segment. Several innovative vaccines from companies like GSK, MSD, and Sanofi have been brought to the country. Of course, there will be many Indian variants as well. Now, all the therapies that we have looked so far, you will see that there are several branded generics which operate. But then, why I focused is somebody had to get these brands into the country for branded generics to come out, because there are a lot, it's not just R&D. There are a lot of clinical trials that need to be approved by the government of India for launch of molecules in the country. Also, when it comes to efforts of market shaping, market priming, probably, good amount of effort that these MNCs do, which enables later on many patients consume this type of products in a very confident way post patent launch, because post patent launch the product becomes affordable, the prices come down to 1/10, 1/5, 1/7. So a bigger range of population is able to consume this medication or consume this therapy, but then a significant amount of market shaping, market priming, or patient profiling work is done excellently by a lot of MNCs in the country. Now, last section to summarize, while MNCs contribute only to 15% of the IPM, they have contributed significantly in terms of innovative molecules that have been launched in the past few decades. MNCs have built legacy brands that still have strong presence long after loss of exclusivity. Most of the innovative launches focus on three core aspects of gaps in current therapy: safety and faster onset of action, ease of dosage for better compliance, and assurance for better quality of life. So, the last section we will be focusing on challenges faced by MNCs in India and successful partnership and reach models used by MNCs. Though these are the challenges with many of the MNCs face in India, regulatory hurdles would be complex and evolving regulations, compliance cost, stringent inspections, and certain price controls. Because many a times the government announces that you really cannot have beyond this, price per tablet or price per injection for treatment, and then the price is have to be slashed like anything. Patent challenges, counterfeit drugs available in the marketing, also cases of compulsory licensing. Just last week, the case that we had read about this brand, about the molecule risdiplam from Roche, where one bottle cost around 6 lakh rupees. And it's used for a rare disease, which is the spinal muscular atrophy. So in that case, and the patent protection is 2036. So there may be some patients who really require these products, but they will not be able to afford it. In that cases, the government comes out with compulsory licensing, wherein some Indian players are given permission to launch a generic, which is actually a significant loss for the MNC. But then yes, it is a benefit for the patient. Supply chain disruptions, the logistics and infrastructure, especially to reach the interiors of the country, impact of certain global events. Also, as far as the competition is concerned, there is intense competition with from Indian players, the generic, whether it is the branded generics or generic generics, and there is a lot of healthcare focus of policies from the government of India, the Jan Aushadhi policy, which is of course a positive policy for the population of India, but then this is a challenging policy for the MNCs to operate in India. Then there are a lot of quality, operational and quality concerns that need to be addressed, especially if the drugs are going to be manufactured in India. A skilled manpower has to be available in abundant quantity as per the global norms. I don't say that there is no skilled manpower in India to address the production challenges, but then to meet the global norms, probably there is still a shortage. And the other threats that we see are cyber security, reputational risk, because if anything goes wrong in within India, it also impacts the global image of the company. Pandemics and emerging infectious diseases are also some threats that MNCs may face. Now, the last section is we look at the successful partnerships and reach models used by MNCs. In licensing partnership deals during the patent period. While in the earlier days, MNCs used to go solo, but then now they have realized that if I have to have a better reach, I may have an excellent product, but then there are strong Indian players who have a better reach, and in terms of image, they are global companies. So they are well known global companies, good to partner with. So MSD Sun partnership or Novartis USP partnership in the DPP4 segment are excellent examples of some of the initial partnerships that were seen in the anti-diabetes market. Post the patent loss or during patent loss, also there are certain distribution agreement which these companies have. The one which was announced just yesterday, MSD and Abbott's partnership to strengthen the reach of sitagliptin brands, whether it is plains or combinations in a competitive market, or Novo Nordisk partnership with Abbott for insulin brands. Dual pricing. This is something which companies come out with once the patent is lost to ensure that branded generics do not take away their share significantly. So the patented product is available at the normal, the original product is available at the normal cost, and the dual price product is available at a one third or half the price. While branded generics will still exist and still continue, but then the doctors also have a, or the patients also have a I would say, economical option available besides the innovative product. Of course, then once this comes into picture, nobody usually goes to the innovative product because it's this product which will sell more because it's the same company. Then we have the franchise model for the OTX brands. An excellent example would be Woberan when it was with Novartis. They had a franchisee model because, again, after all, it is a pain product meant for taking care of pain. So it's like a general product. But then looking at the field force size, difficult for Novartis to reach the interiors. So having a franchisee model for better reach. Also, the third strategy, last strategy, I wouldn't say this is the last, but one of the strategies is divesting the strong portfolio in order to focus on some core portfolio. So, Sanofi wants to focus more on the consumer division and research molecules and has divested some of the key portfolios like cardiac to MQR, CNS to Cipla, vaccines to DRL, soframycin to NQ and nutritionals to Universal Nutriscience. So, it's not that Sanofi wipes out of India, but then they have ensured that their portfolios stay in hands of strong companies who would actually take it further and grow them further. To summarize Section 3, MNCs face many regulatory, logistics, and IP protection hurdles. Price controls may also impact the value of the limited portfolio that MNCs have. However, MNCs do focus on some strong strategic partnerships and reach models to effectively optimize their presence. So, with this, we have covered the three important sections. I'm sure there would be many more aspects of MNCs that I may not have been in a position to cover, but yes, I try to do as much as possible and try to do justice in recognizing the efforts that MNCs have been taking in launching innovation in the country. The team that has worked with me for this paper, my team members Pari Fatima Latif and Shipra Karkare, they have been very important contributors in this research paper. And besides this, my ex-Novartis colleagues Prashant Mishra, Anaga Shirur and Amanpreet Kukreja, they have really helped me to develop the MNC strategy slide piece. IPM Diaries is an initiative from PharmaRack that focuses on strategic areas that drive exponential growths in the Indian pharma industry. And these are a few earlier episodes of IPM Diaries that we had. So it was Power of Mother Brand, Strategic Partnerships in Indian Pharma Market, Evolution of Lifestyle Diseases and how they have shaped the Indian pharma market, Growth Levers of the Indian healthcare industry, and uh, the Davids and Goliaths of the pharma industry who collectively strengthen the Indian pharma market. If you have missed any of these episodes, feel free to reach out to me. We will ensure that we will get this copy of these episodes as well. About PharmaRack, PharmaRack is first of its kind commerce to insights technology company solving trade problems for the Indian pharma industry. It is the India's largest B2B commerce platform across different categories. At PharmaRack, we build inclusive tech-led products catering to the needs of pharma brands, chemists, distributors, and manufacturers, providing them a level playing field to scale trade and grow their business. Anchored and powered by leading Indian pharma companies to strengthen trade in India, PharmaRack is India's largest B2B commerce platform across categories. Our core offerings are in the areas of farm analytics platform, wherein we have analytics and insights on sales, marketing, supply chain, uniquely driven through our platform. It's done through on-platform and off-platform data capture. Farm Connect Stockist platform, which strengthens the distributor operations. There is a two-way visibility and returns management. And Farm Retail Chemist platform, which is best in class, which has best in class features for company to retailer engagement and loyalty building. To know more about us, please visit our website www.pharmarack.com. And that's all from today. And I hope you have enjoyed this session of IPM Diaries. Please feel free to give your suggestions to us, and we will definitely improve upon it if and include your feedback on these sessions. Please also feel free if you feel like having some additional interesting topics in IPM Diaries to be included in IPM Diaries in future. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a nice weekend ahead.